Let's just get to it, big dog.
Let's do it.
What do you think separates those who succeed in bodybuilding versus who never reach their potential? What do you think the key variable is that stops people?
Man, I would say already having like an established career in life. I can't tell you how many times I've put people through shows that don't have their life together. You know, their life, their finances, their relationships. They try to get into a prep and everything just falls through because they have too many stressors, right? Whether it be financial stress, relationship stress, or any other stress that people may have.
Mhm.
It's just too much and it throws off your look. Cortisol is a killer in conditioning. Like
Yeah.
if you have high cortisol, good luck getting stage conditioned.
Yeah.
Not only that, bodybuilding is an expensive sport, man. Bodybuilding is not cheap. It can be great. It could be a very healthy lifestyle, right? The bodybuilding lifestyle. But the moment you transition into like bodybuilding competition, you want to turn pro, all these things, you're diving into the side that's not as healthy.
Yeah.
You know, taking things in order to look better, get bigger, all of these variables that you're putting into your body take a toll.
Mhm.
And not only do they take a toll, you have to mitigate things so that your health doesn't go down, you know,
Yeah.
and you have to realize that this stuff isn't cheap. You know,
Yeah.
like you don't just buy one and you're one and done. You know, you buy like a whole thing. You buy, you know, you buy your kits, you buy multiple vials or whatever you need. And not all takes money.
Yeah.
So really not having your life together is you're already starting off with a lot of things fighting against you.
Yeah.
A lot of things. And also too, like you're not only paying for the food, the gear, the gym membership, but you gotta pay your coach. I mean,
Mhm.
there's some coaches like me that, you know, this is our livelihood. This is what we do for a living.
Mhm.
This is how we pay for the bills and things like that. So you have to make sure that you are in the financial position to pay your coach.
Yeah.
That's your responsibility at that point. Not only paying your coach, but telling what your coach is telling you to doing what your coach is telling you to do.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would say if you're gonna be a competitive bodybuilder and you want to go far with it, you have to have your life at least somewhat together.
Yeah.
In terms of finances, is probably the biggest one. Um, because if you're just in like a she's my girlfriend, he's my boyfriend relationship and it's super toxic, you get rid of that. You know,
Yeah.
you can't really get rid of not having money.
Mhm.
That's the biggest thing in bodybuilding is the amount of money you're gonna spend.
Yeah. That's interesting. I would kind of would have imagined you would have said something more like discipline
No.
or, you know, like consistency in the gym. It's
Obviously, yeah, you know, those are super important, don't get me
yeah.
wrong, but a lot of people have those things, but sometimes some of the reasons people can't be as disciplined and as consistent is because they don't have the money to
Yeah.
be as disciplined and consistent in this specific sport.
Mhm.
You know, other sports not as much, but like in this specific sport, you have to eat, you have to be on top of things, and everything costs money. Yeah, that's probably the number one thing that I have noticed and experienced so far as a coach that if you don't have those things together, you're not going to be a successful bodybuilder.
That's great. So home life put together, as you said, kind of a de-stressed environment,
Pretty
you know,
much.
for the need there, and then obviously the financial resources
Mhm.
to push forward. Interesting. What do you think some of the biggest misconceptions people have when they start building bodybuilding are, and how do those beliefs hold them back?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions are, especially now, the glorification of steroids now.
Mhm.
Like you see it all over Instagram, you know, TikTok, these guys taking stacks. Dude, I had an 18-year-old hit me up the other day for like a consultation call. I got on the phone call with him. He started asking me questions about like gear.
Mhm.
And I was like, hey man, how old are you? He's like, I'm 18. I was like, you're on 18. I mean, you're 18 on 400 milligrams of testosterone and
Jeez.
60, I think he said like 60, somewhere around like 60 of injectable anavar.
That's wild.
I'm like, you're 18, man. Like,
Yeah.
do you,
You already got good testosterone
one, who
right now.
sold you this?
For real.
Whoever sold you that is, at the end of the day, an asshole because they need to realize that they're gonna be messing up this kid's life long term if he decides to just continue to take more and more and more. Because that's what he was only taking that for a week, and he had already hit me up to take more. He's like, should I take more? I was like, how long you been on it? About a week and a half. I gained like 10 pounds. I'm like, yeah, you gained 10 pounds of water.
Yeah.
You didn't gain 10 pounds of anything else but water because of really inflammation. Because I asked him about his diet, and I was like,
oh yeah. Yeah, people who can't train well and then jump on gear and they think it's gonna solve their problems. Like your diet shit, you don't know how to train appropriately.
He told me, he's like, I've been training like 3 years. I'm like, you're 18.
Yeah.
So you started training you were 15? And you're complaining you're not big enough? Yeah. He's like, I took a blood test and my test was low. I was like, what was it? He's like, it was like 400 something. I was like, in all reality, that's still within range.
Yeah.
You're fine.
My shit was 220.
My dad was double digits, bro.
It's fucking horrible.
Yeah, awful. And like in those cases, obviously, yes.
Yeah.
And even like over 26, over 25, because
at 18,
dude.
Yeah. And again, like if you said there's other indicators of your health. If those markers were also off,
exactly,
then maybe it's not your test. Maybe you are stressed. Maybe you're like you've been eating like shit.
Exactly.
Maybe you're a little overtrained right now. You're fatigued.
Yeah,
there's
some inflammation markers that tell you about your body, and some of those inflammation markers are like, it could be a reason why you're not gaining any tissue. It could be a reason why you're not gaining any weight. Because you have these inflammation markers 3-4 times higher than the normal number, and they can affect muscle protein synthesis or whatever else it may be, and that's a reason why things aren't going the way you want. And all because you inject an oil in you, it's not going to make things any better.
Yeah.
So definitely think that kids nowadays getting into the bodybuilding, they need to prioritize the triad, recovery, training, and eating.
Diet,
You do those 3, you will go so far. But I'm talking like true execution to those things. Not just like, oh yeah, I eat like 2 meals of chicken and rice. I'm a bodybuilder. No. 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 That's not what I'm talking about.
Or the bro down on 5 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're not.
Over 1,000.
I'm here at 5 a.m. So yeah, and you got 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
How much do you think you're going to progress?
Exactly.
Like it'd be better if you came in the afternoon, you slept till 7 a.m., you got 7 hours of sleep, you'd have more energy to train.
Had more food in your system.
Exactly.
If they decide they want to eat, and
I mean, so to backpedal on that a little bit, I think that's from my perspective, it's seen as like the instant gratification, right? People want to like that kid. I've been on it a week and a half. Where's the results? So like bodybuilding is just building muscle in general is a long-term thing, right? It's not going to happen overnight or in a couple of weeks or even a couple of months. I mean, even a year is like you can grow a lot in a year, but like relative to now you stack 5 of those years together. Yeah. Like year 1 versus year 5 are going to look holistically different. But year 1 to 2, there's going to be changes, but not as
much as year 1.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think a lot of, this younger generation collectively in general with, again, the glorification of steroids combined with this instant need for like, I want it now. It's like, there's no like, I think that's the beauty of the gym, at least to me, is, you can't make someone train for you. You can have all the money in the world. And like, if you see somebody who's jacked, like they've worked for it, whether they're on gear or not, like they've had to train extensively over a period of time to accumulate that tissue. You can't just buy it from someone. No. And I think when people are young, that's the mindset. It's like, oh, if I just get on gear, I'll just be jacked.
I'll get huge.
Yeah.
No, that's not the case, brother.
and I think also, but for some, mentioning that kid was 18, I think that's also driven by the fact of, like, we're seeing people like Anton become pro at 18.
Yeah.
And I mean, C-Bomb to be as good as he was, like, I mean, he's been competing since he was 18.
Yeah.
So we're seeing this, like, the competition has become so high at the best level. And so people who maybe do kind of feel like they have a passion or they want to pursue that and try it out, they're if they're 21, they think, man, I'm already behind.
Yeah.
Because there's dudes already got pro cards by 21. It's like, I'm 21, I want to start, I decided I want to like really get into the gym like that.
So then they start taking things as if they've been in the gym for 5-6 plus years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think, again, multiple variables there that drive to that common denominator, but very, it's wild to see collectively. But
and I've seen Antoine in person, man, and he looks crazy.
Yeah.
He looks insane. So the thing is, he doesn't even look his age. He looks 20 years older.
Oh yeah, bro looks 35.
Yeah.
And he's 21.
And the crazy thing is, like, you see his physique. Everyone looks at his physique like, man, I want a physique like that. But like, realize how old he is, and then look at his face.
Yeah.
He's aging himself to look like that.
I listened, I forget the podcast name, but it was some guys, some older bodybuilders were on it, and they were saying, you know, like, I'm 55, and you know, when I was 20, it was like, give up 10 years of my life right now, sure, because there's
Yeah.
so much time left in front of me. Because but now, like, I'd give anything back to like not be as stupid and like naive as I was then to do gear for that long, and like,
Mhm.
you know, like you said, the long term cost, you know.
It's not worth it,
Yeah,
especially if you're not a C-bum.
yeah,
You know, if you're not a genetically blessed person that can really, really go far in this sport.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's another thing. Like, I recently onboarded a client, and he told me he wants to do bodybuilding as a career, and I was like, let me explain to you something about this. Okay, this is like almost like the NFL. There's millions of guys, you know, trying to go into the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Only 0.5%
Yeah,
actually make it there. You
yeah.
know what I mean? This is the same thing for bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to be spending probably more money on bodybuilding because of all the things that you are going to eventually take because you want to get there as fast as you can, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're sacrificing so much more of your health.
Mm-hmm.
So much more of your health. You know, if you're trying to go to the NFL, you're not sacrificing your health like that, like you do in bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I was like, I could hit up 4 or 5 pros right now for you, have you on the call with me, and ask them if they've made any money being a bodybuilder.
Zero.
And 98 to 99% of them will say no, unless they're a trainer coach, right? Because you're selling your physique to get clients. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Or you have a business mindset to where you're like, oh, I'm going to make a supplement company. I'm going to have a whole plan down with how you're going to market, all the things, all the supplements you're going to have, the pricing, everything. If you have that type of business mindset, and you go into bodybuilding, you can make income that way, of course. But if you're just trying to be a professional bodybuilder and think like, oh, I'm a professional bodybuilder, you know, I'm gonna make however much a month. That's not the case. You're gonna make $0 a month. You get things for free, you get sponsorships, but it's not things that you need. It's just cool things like the clothing you're wearing, you know, like the what brand is that again?
Dark Sport.
Dark Sport. Get a Dark Sport sponsor. Sure, cool. You got a couple things of free shirts, free pants, free hats, whatever it may be. What is that going to do for you?
Yeah.
Is that going to pay your bills? Is that going to pay for your food? No.
Yeah.
They see people like C-Bum and they see other bodybuilders that have like Lambos and stuff, but those are business mindset people.
If someone isn't progressing in the gym, where do you typically see them failing first? Nutrition, training, mindset. Or the biggest one of the three, maybe.
Maybe more mindset. Because if they're struggling in the gym, they're gonna be like they'll have that almost like victim mentality where like, oh, I'm not improving. This has to do with me. I'm just not strong enough. I'm not genetically there. Whatever the case may be. Their mental tends to crumble first, especially with my lifestyle clients. I would say the span of actual genuine motivation and discipline will last maybe a month before their mentality starts to die down some. They're super motivated at first, and when they're not seeing the immediate results in the first month to a month and a half to maybe even 2 months, they start to really be like, I have no motivation. They'll tell me, you know, I have no motivation. I haven't seen results. I haven't seen this. I haven't seen that. My lifts aren't going up. And, you know, they're online clients. So there's only so much I can do rather than being there and training them one-on-one.
Yeah.
But, you know, I tell them, I'm like, well, send me videos of your workouts. I want to see the actual intensity you're going at. Like, are you training like I expect you to train, or are you training the way you've been training, just not telling me? You know what I mean? Because like when I send out my workout programs, they're very detailed with exactly how I want you to do the reps and sets. And they're detailed because it's making you do things I know you don't do. It's making you do different types of stimulus during an exercise that I know you don't do. And that adds to the overall intensity of the exercise. And if your intensity is always low, of course your gym performance isn't going to increase. If your gym performance doesn't increase, your results are going to come slower. If your results come slower, your motivation dies down.
Yeah.
So I tend to see more of the mentality shift whenever they don't see what they want to see. before it's anything about food or training.
Yeah. I kind of have a disgusted or paralleled approach to the idea of motivation collectively. I think, anyone can be motivated at first, right? Like the first time you write down like a goal for anything, like I want to get healthier, I want to make more money or whatever, like you're pretty pumped about it,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But then like when the proverbial grind starts to occur, that motivation's gone.
Yeah.
For anyone. I don't think it's necessarily like a certain type of person that falls victim to that more than another. I think that's just the consequence of life. Because, when you're in the development stage of a goal or an idea that you want to succeed in something, like it's all kind of this euphoric feeling, because you're thinking about like the achievement portion, right? You're not really thinking about the commitment and the time and the work required to get there. Yeah. Right. And then, so a few months in, you're like, fuck, like that's why I think the idea of having motivation is kind of lost for me. I don't know. I mean, when it's there, I'm grateful for it, but when it's not, like,
that's when you really got to grind through.
Yeah.
That's when you really got to work.
But to me, that's what you build discipline for, right? Because I'd rather be disciplined than motivated all day.
Oh, 100%.
And I think a lot of people don't struggle. They struggle to realize that motivation is just like every other emotion. It's temporary, right? You're angry, great, it'll go away. You're happy, it'll go away. You're motivated, it'll go away. It'll come back. But if you solely rely on that variable to make you or hope that that's going to make you successful, essentially, like that's not what's going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I think, just not relying so much on motivation could benefit more people than not. The people who can sustain success for a long-term period of time it's just consistency and discipline, right? Even when you're not seeing the results, like great, show up and do the work. If you are seeing the results, great, show up and do the work.
Because long-term they will be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And I think if anything, like the problem I can at least speak for myself in is, I get so like zoomed in and hyper-focused on like the day or the set or that individual rep, right? And it's like, and I had a good coach a couple of years ago who really like changed my perspective to this. And he said, if you do 99 of the 100 workouts, do you think you won't get better? If you missed one day or one workout because like you were sick or something, like, because I had this like fear of like, oh fuck, if I don't hit every rep, every set, every day, then, there's no growth. Like kind of this 0 or 1.
Yeah.
Either you're successful or you're not. And it's like, if you eat 180 grams of protein and you were supposed to eat 200, like that's not no progress. That's not a positive, outcome.
Yeah.
Right. And we all, well, I didn't get to 200, so it was nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not it at all. Because you do that enough over 6 months, 2 years, like there will be progress there.
100%.
And so just trying to differentiate that. But kind of what do you think, and what do you view the difference on motivation versus discipline?
I have the same opinion as you. Motivation is another emotion. It's an emotion that comes and goes. You'll have it at one point and it'll be great and it feels nice and you feel like you could conquer the world when you have it. But then when you don't have it, that's when you really need to buckle down and look at your goals and realize that they're not going to come right away. They're not going to come in a week. They're not going to come in 2 weeks. It's going to take a period of time. And it's going to take a lot of, like what you said, discipline. Because discipline at the end of the day is it's going to be the driver. Because when you don't want to do something, what's the one thing that's going to make you do it? It's going to be discipline. Because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So I believe discipline is probably one of the most important things to be successful in life.
Yeah.
You have to have discipline. If you have no discipline, you don't have that. You have just a lousy schedule. You have constant excuses for whatever it may be. That just shows lack of discipline. There's lack of discipline. There's going to be lack of growth.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is for everything that you do. So
I agree. I always tell people that the sexy stuff isn't actually what wins. Like it's not actually the stuff that makes it, right? It's the boring meals, the same movements in the gym, progressing over time, the same meals over time.
Yeah.
Like it's they're always like, well, if I do this hanging leg raise with this or that, just do the same thing the right way, progressively over time, and there'll be results.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's nice that they want to change things and add a stimulus, right? But like, don't expect that change in stimulus to be this big grand thing where everything changes.
Yeah. Or I think that the other one that I've seen myself as a struggle with, it's like, if it's already working, you don't need to change it. And I think like for me, that came on the running side. It's like I went from running like a rather slow, like 4-hour marathon to like almost running a 3-hour marathon. And I was like, okay, well, if I want to go to sub 3, like the regimen to growth has got to change. It's like, well, the guy I was working with was like, why? What you did that took an hour off worked.
Yeah.
Like there's no sign that it stopped working. So why would we want to alter everything? Like, we know that works. Let's start there. Now if that stops working, okay, then we'll
Exactly.
like manipulate just one thing at a time. You know, but like you think to get to this next level of success after you've already had growth that you need to alter the whole program. He's like, that's still working.
Exactly.
So we don't need to change it. And I think a lot of people get in that mindset too.
And I do that with like clients in their diets, like in prep. You know, some clients are like, "Hey man, should I?" Not even in prep, even clients who are cutting, like, "Hey man, are you sure I should be eating this much? Like, it's this many calories. You know, I feel it's not that much of a deficit." And I'm like, "Well, look, you lost 2 pounds since last week. Typically, my rate is between 1.5 pounds to absolute max 5 pounds a week."
That's insane, though. 5 pounds a week is wild.
And I've had it happen before, mainly with like bigger folk.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? People coming in and like
just
making that massive shift in their lifestyle, dude. They're gonna be dropping pounds
falls
real quick. You know what I mean? And you know the people like couple of my clients, they'll drop, like if I drop their gear or whatnot, they'll drop water retention because inflammation goes down, less glycogen loading if I drop their test, you know what I mean? And that weight will drop. But yeah.
I get that. You've seen firsthand how struggling in bodybuilding parallel struggles in real life. What are some of the biggest life lessons you've taken away from the gym?
That your goals won't come without consistently working on them every single day. You can take your break, you know. It's healthy to take breaks. But what bodybuilding taught me is, you know, when I started bodybuilding, I started bodybuilding for one purpose, and that was to just be bigger, be more muscular, because I was like a sophomore in high school, $135 maybe, you know what I mean? I looked myself in the mirror and I'm like, this ain't it.
This ain't it.
This is not it. And so that year I asked my parents for a gym membership, but for my birthday, I didn't want anything else. Didn't want a car. Didn't want this, didn't want that, didn't want a PlayStation, didn't want anything. I just wanted a gym membership. And so start working out when I was 16. And I'm talking like eating 4 or 5 meals a day at 16, getting in my sleep. Like I was like a bodybuilder in high school, a legit bodybuilder. I didn't party, I didn't drink, I didn't do anything. I just followed the regimen because I wanted that one goal, which is to get bigger. And it's crazy because by the time I was gonna graduate high school, everyone thought I was on steroids. But it wasn't. It was just that consistency, 5 days a week, taking my 2 rest days, following my meals, just consistency with everything to get me that one goal I wanted when I was 15. By the time I was 18, 20, I was there. And I was like I actually sat back. I looked at myself because I think at 2022, so I was 23 years old. That's when I did my first competition. But slightly before that, you know, I was sitting there and I was like, the reason I'm here right now with my physique is because I worked for it every single day, 5 days a week. That consistency led me here. And if I want anything in my life, I need to give the same consistency I gave with bodybuilding and the same discipline I gave with bodybuilding with other aspects, whether it be, you know, studying for whatever exam you have, whatever degree, whatever license you're trying to get, financials, doing what you have to do in order to be a little bit more on the better end, whatever finances you have. If you have a little bit more materialistic goals, like you want this car, you want this, I don't know, gold chain or whatnot, like it's going to take time and discipline to do the things you need to get what you want. And that's what bodybuilding taught me. Because like you said, like a lot of people, they want things, they want it then. They want it right then and there. Bodybuilding taught me that good things come with time. You know, you got to give things time and energy to actually get what you want. You're not going to get what you want right away. And that's with every aspect of life. So that's probably the biggest, most important thing that bodybuilding has taught me is things are going to take time, but they're going to come if you work for it every day.
I've learned that, you know, when you get the thing you want or that you think you want right away, you know, like the simple analogy I give for people who probably will listen to this is like You know, if you eat the donut, it feels really good in the moment. You're like, oh, fuck, this is great. But then afterwards, you're like, I hate that donut. Like, it kind of haunts you a bit, right? Like, you don't, feels really good for that 5 or 10 minutes, but then all day you're like, man, I fucking hate that.
I shouldn't eat that.
Yeah, you know, like, versus like, there's never a time I've gone to the gym or gone on a run that like, because a lot of times I don't want to when I get there or leading up to going, you know, like, I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I just want to go home. I want to lay the fuck down. I want to be a piece of shit. Like, but I'm here. I'm putting in the work now. You know, and afterwards, I'm like, you know what? I'm glad I did that. And that feeling is way more lasting than that 5 seconds of 5 minutes of gratification from that
regret.
Exactly. Yeah. And then it doesn't cost me anything later. I never am regretful of like, man, I came to the gym and got after it. You know, I'm always happy about it. So it's like the thing that initially doesn't like pull you in has a longer term like benefit.
Oh yeah.
So just the thing to what you said there is just that the consistency over time. What did failing in the gym teach you? Like
Failing
really
in the
about and correlation to life, and how maybe that people should reshape their relationship to failure.
You can always get back up. So like, back when I used to train at Fitness Connection, I was a trainer, but I used to work out at Fitness Connection. Actually, no, it was at Iron City. I take that back. I had messed up my quad, so I was on a squat machine and I was going for it. I went real heavy, and my right quad did this pop on like the middle part of it, and I immediately racked it. Actually, no, take that back. I did one more rep.
Had to make sure.
Hey, you know, I did one more rep, and in that rep, I felt something like it was a pain, but it was like a dull pain. I was like, I racked it. I looked at it. I touched it, and something told me to just take a break. And you know, I was the guy that did legs 2 times a week, sometimes 3 if I wasn't feeling any other body part and I wanted to do legs instead. Like I loved doing legs. Because my thing is everyone has a big upper body, but no one's got big legs. So I always wanted to train legs. And when I couldn't, I felt like I was gonna lose my quads. I was gonna lose all the progress I made. You know what I mean? It felt like it knocked me down because I was like, damn, like I can't train. I can't do my program. I can't train the way I need to train to get to where I want.
It's kind of like what we were saying there, like if you got 97 of the 100 leg days you planned for the year, where you're not going to still get bigger, right? But like that mindset of like the fear of if I'm not doing it all, I'm not going to get anything out of it.
And so the day after, I had pretty good amount of pain in my leg, and not soreness, like actual genuine pain where it popped.
Yeah.
And I told myself, I was like, I'm going to have to take a good time off. I took a month off of legs. I gave myself a real long recovery time because I knew if I would have given it the time, even excess time, what it needed, I could come back and not worry about it. I could come back and not too far from where I left off. You know what I mean? Because there's other guys that will work through the pain and they make things worse.
Yeah.
And then now, instead of taking just that month off, now they have to take 3 months off because now they have a more significant tear or a strain that causes them to take a longer rest period. And it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So knowing that I'll get back up, that definitely helped.
Yeah.
You know, it definitely taught me that even though injuries can happen in the gym, you're never gonna be knocked down. Yeah. Injuries recover, and you can always get back to it.
Yeah, the phrase I say on the running side is like, there's always another race. You know, there's always another day to race. There's always another show, right?
Exactly.
So, you know, just that idea of that like continue on mindset. And I think what probably generates a lot of that issue with what you were saying there on the pain portion. So a lot of people really can't distinguish the true aspect of discomfort versus pain, right? Until they don't realize that to train at a high level, there's a normal level of discomfort that accompanies that. And so that when they first, I think with people who aren't training hard enough, that's the variable for them. It's like, oh, this hurts. It's like, no, like it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It should be uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Like this isn't something that's like, because if it feels just easy and you can do it for 20 reps, like, well then, I mean, yeah, you can do 40 or 50 reps if you want to get that same stimulus, or we can throw a little more weight on there. We can get you there in 8 to 10 reps.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's one, but the other phrase I have with this is that these things are, I call them infinite games. And a lot of people don't understand that the main idea of an infinite game is that you can't really win it, because the main idea is to keep playing. No one, and I'll give you some examples, like in your marriage, no one cares if you were married, they care if you're still married.
Yeah.
Right? The idea of the game is to keep playing. No one cares if you were in shape, it's, are you still in shape? To keep playing. You had a business, great. Are you still in business?
Yeah.
And so many things in life are infinite games, that we try to create everything as this finite, I won or lost. But really, the real big payoffs, the things that we really win at per se, are the infinite games, the ones we just continue to play. So,
and it's perfect you say that, because there's some clients that I coach that want to take more, and I tell them, I'm like, well, there's no reason to take more, because you're still growing on this. There's still that stimulus, you're still progressing, and there's no reason to damn, I forgot where I was going.
Jeopardize their health.
Yeah, there's no reason to jeopardize their health at all, because you want to get bigger faster. Bodybuilding, if you love bodybuilding, you want to do it for as long as you can.
Yeah.
If you don't love bodybuilding as much as you say, you take all these things, now guess what? Instead of 45 years of bodybuilding you could have done that genuinely, but if bodybuilding makes you happy, right? Now you only did maybe 15.
Yeah.
Because you decided to fast track and just mess your body up way more than it needed to. And then now you can't bodybuild anymore.
Yeah.
Because whatever happened,
Yeah. I think that's always been my mitigation from pursuing, I think, a true bodybuilding career, is that, like, man, I still want to lift in 40 years. I want to be 70 and still in the gym.
Exactly.
With some, like, damn, that dude's got some weight on there. Right. But not because I wanted the 600-pound squat right now. Like, I'll happily have the 250 to 300 at 70. That's just still more than most people do regularly, So it's like, versus, oh yeah, I got 600 right now at 30, like, cool. But then when I'm 50, I can barely get around.
Yeah.
So I think, again, like we kind of mentioned too and alluded to, before we started chatting today, but the idea of knowing yourself and knowing what you want. Some people just don't know what they want. Yeah. This idea, this illusion of, like,
they like the idea of things, but is it truly what you want?
Yeah, I think it's the silent killer current in today's age. It's just truly knowing what you want, knowing yourself. What do you think of suffering, whether that's in the gym or just in life for growth? And do people go wrong trying to avoid it?
So my view on suffering would be, you're always going to learn a lesson. You're always going to learn something through your suffering, whether it be an internal thing or something external, like a toxic boyfriend or girlfriend. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, if you're in a toxic relationship, you're suffering. Yeah. You're not having a good time. It's not a happy relationship.
Maybe you don't know it, but
yeah, exactly. I think it's gonna sound maybe a little messed up, but I think it's needed.
No, I agree.
It's needed for people to maybe find themselves, or to realize things that they haven't, because they've maybe been pushing it to the back of their head, or they've just been ignoring it because they don't want to accept it. And so I just think suffering is needed in order to build your character, build who you are. You got to go through those life experiences in order to build yourself.
Yeah, I agree. I think that doesn't sound bad to me, at least, but I've advocated on this show holistically that suffering is a needed component of existence, that there is no, greater reward to overcoming or getting on the other side of some suffering, right? And I do think people try to avoid it collectively, most of the time, because, like, no one wants to, like, yeah, I want to suffer.
Yeah.
Right. But
yeah, no one really says that.
Yeah. I mean, and that's fair. I mean, that's normal.
Yeah.
But I think if you just flip the perspective to realizing that if you can just be okay with it when it is present, don't seek it, like, but when it comes, don't bemoan it. Just realize that if you can endure whatever that suffering is, because it's not forever, right? That when you get to the other side of it, you'll have something that you currently don't have, a perspective, a skill, knowledge, like, whatever it is, like, you're going to get something out of it. It's not though it's uncomfortable and shitty to you, it is giving in the way of knowledge and experience and rewarding in that way.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're just getting fucked for fun.
Yeah.
Like, if you manage it the right way and really just hold on, like at the end of it, you're gonna get something out of it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people view suffering as like, oh, there's just this thing that's here to just fuck my life up and, ruin me. And it's like, no, it's there to teach you something.
Yeah.
Just, are you willing to have the understanding and the visibility to find what it showed you?
Yeah.
Especially if you find yourself suffering in the same ways, I mean, what aren't you learning? So it's trying to, life, God, whatever you want to, give it to, but like it's trying to show you something.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're suffering in the same way over and over again, it means you're not getting it.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of going like, why is it always this same shit? Like, well, then what aren't you getting?
Yeah.
It's like changing your relationship to the suffering.
And like, I recently got my faith back, maybe about like 2 years ago. My grandfather passed away. That's a whole crazy story in itself. But now I see it like if I'm suffering and I'm going through things, God is trying to show me something.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to build me.
Yeah.
He knows that, he knows that this is breaking me down, but it's breaking me down to expose something I need to be exposed to, whether it be like a better part of me or something to fix, whether it be my schedule, um, how I speak, right? How I speak to others, how I go by things. Like instead of getting upset or angry about this, why don't I just sit back, really think about it, and realize why it's happening and adjust? You know what I mean? Realize that this suffering is going to end up in something that I need. And there's always a purpose to things.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're suffering, there's going to be a purpose.
Yeah.
And you have to find that purpose through that suffering.
Exactly. I think that, there's, like you said, there's a purpose, there's a reason why it's happening. And maybe right now you can't see it, but that doesn't mean that it's not there.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean you won't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And hindsight's always great, but that thing right now that you're just like, this is horrible. I don't know how I'm going to make it through it. It's like maybe 3 years from now, that's the thing that helps you help someone else. Because now you have something, in correlation to relate to them with, or you have something similar, or,
Mm-hmm.
it helps you change into that better version of you because, I think also with suffering, it helps you rid yourself of old parts of you, like letting old ideas of you die off so that newer, better versions of you can come to the light. So.
Exactly.
That's good, man. What do you think is the most underrated aspect on the bodybuilding side that actually makes the biggest difference in long-term progress?
Underrated?
Underrated. Is there people maybe like optimizing for like, oh, if I get this stimulus, or if I get on stim while I train, or if I like up my gear like this, like what's the like most underrated, but it always works for long-term progress?
Yeah, I would really say, and this is known, right? But not a lot of people follow through with it, and it's just consistency. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just consistency. Like people know about it, but not everyone is consistent enough because consistency will help you long term.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you're consistent in one thing, like if you say you're consistent in bodybuilding, that can translate to other parts of your life. You're gonna be consistent with maybe, if you have a son, daughter, and they're in the house and you play with them every once in a while, maybe you'll be more consistent with playing with them. Maybe you'll be more consistent. You take them on a walk. I take my son on a walk every day at 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Before his nap at 12:30, I take him for a nice walk. I let him explore, touch things, look at things. I take him to the park. I get him out there. I spend time with him. That's every day.
Yeah.
And that just comes from like having that consistent like bodybuilding schedule, have that consistent schedule with myself and the things that I do. It's going to translate into parts of my life that are right now, like having a kid is new, right? So having that consistent schedule with taking him to the park and taking him on these walks, that consistency ends up building that relationship between me and my son.
Yeah.
Because he's spending more time with me. We're having more fun. He's seeing and feeling and doing new things, you know what I mean? And I think the consistency that you have in bodybuilding can definitely aid in consistency in other aspects of your life.
Yeah.
And I think that part of consistency is underrated. Like no one really notices that.
Yeah.
No one really pays attention to that. I've had several clients where like they'll start training daily, right? And they have that consistency. And then now they have consistency with other aspects. One would be their sleep, better sleep. or even their jobs. They'll be more consistent with getting their things submitted. They'll be more consistent with doing things properly. And yeah, I think that's one thing that bleeds consistency bleeds into other aspects of your life for sure. And I think that part is, like I said, underrated.
Yeah. I think, we see with like compounding and money or, consistency is, I think, correlative to that in anything, really. You said, like with your career, with your relationship with your child, there's this idea that there's really like your life's really made up of about 10 things. People want to believe it's like this infinite amount of variables, but it's like, so if you can optimize one thing, like that's 10 to 15% of your life you've changed and improved. So like in your relationship with your son, it's like if we do this one thing for like let's say an hour a day, it's like that's 7 hours a week. It's like 30 hours a month. That's, I don't even know. My brain's kind of dead today, but you come from that. It's about 350 hours a year.
Yeah.
So, it's like this idea or this analogy that like that is your life, right? Like not this, like all this other little like transient bullshit. Like that one thing that's like an hour, like people, this is maybe a better reference. Is like they overvalue the vacation and undervalue their everyday.
Yeah.
Like the vacation's 2 weeks of your life. This is every day.
Yeah.
And so who cares about the perfect vacation if then the other 340 days of your life suck?
Yeah.
Like that's your life. That's every day. So optimize it and really focus on the things. Be consistent in things that are every day. Show up for your wife. Show up for your children. Show up for your job.
And people be more grateful. Not a lot of people are grateful for the things they have. They don't realize the position that they're in is way better than other people's positions.
Yeah.
And people are just going to be more grateful for what they have, not for what they don't have, for what they currently have.
Yeah, I think it's easier though. I think it's easier to focus on what you don't have.
Oh yeah,
it's not as jacked as I could be. I don't make the amount of money I want. I don't have the
course
car I could have.
That's most people's mentality, but because also that's the way our society has been. I think if society changed as a whole, I think people's mental health will be a lot better because they're not so worried about the things they do or the things they don't have. Their mind will be more on the things they do have and maybe be a little bit more grateful for those things.
I agree. I think of that. The last one on that consistency is everyone's jealous of what you have, but not how you got it. So I think that's why people ignore the consistency piece. They're like, damn, I wish I was just jacked like that dude.
Yeah.
Like, hey, he's been in the gym 5 days a week for 6 years.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I mean, if you in parallel do something similar, like you could be, but they just see again like where you are right then, not.
And they don't want to go through the time and if you're training hard, essentially like the pain you went through to get to how you look or how your endurance is. Like my cardiovascular endurance is shit compared to yours. You know what I mean? Like I see your cardiovascular endurance, I'm like, damn, I want that. You know what I mean? Like, I definitely want that. Yeah. I ran around the corner of my house the other day, I almost died. You know what I mean? So it's just
the cost of that was 1,400 miles last year. That's how many miles I ran last year. 1,400.
That's crazy, dude. That's a lot.
So it's like when people are like, oh man, I wish I could run miles at like an 8-minute pace at like a 130-ish heart rate. Like, man, just go run 1,400 miles. You can have it.
And they're
1,200
like,
miles the year before that.
Yeah.
And 1,000 miles the year before that.
Yeah.
Like, so 3 years of more than 1,000 miles each year. Like, yeah. Again, all you see is like, people just want what you have.
All you see is like where the person is at right there and not what it took to get there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on toughness?
It's needed. You need to be tough in life. If you're not tough in life, everything's going to offend you. Everything's going to hurt you. You're going to have that victim mentality. If you're not tough, you're going to be a victim. Victim to yourself, really, because you're going to bring that mentality on yourself.
How do you acquire toughness though?
Through I think that would be through experiences in life. You're not just born with it. I feel like you have to go through things and experience things to give you that abrasive side. You know what I mean? That toughness. Whether it's, good things or bad things, I would say you probably gain more of an abrasive side when you go through more bad things, of course, because that's just natural. If you go through shitty situations, you're going to have like that aggressive, tough personality. A perfect example of that is my dad. My dad, he was in the army for I think 9 or 11 years. I'm not exactly 100% sure on that, but he went to war a lot. you know, and because of that, you gain that personality. You have that really aggressive, you know, just personality, because you're in a situation for an extended period of time that creates that person.
Yeah.
You know, if you go to war, you have to be tough if you're gonna go to war, because you're gonna see things.
It's gonna make you.
Oh yeah, you're gonna off yourself. You know what I mean? You're gonna see things and do things that are going to make you tough.
Yeah, it's not meant for most people.
No, not at all.
I think you know, you have to create a version of yourself that can sustain that kind of environment.
Or have a drive. My dad's drive was his family.
Yeah. The hard part is cutting it off. Knowing when to put it back in the cage and not realize it doesn't have to be here every day anymore. That's something that's taken me a lot of time.
With coming out of the military?
Yeah, just being able to put it away, you know, to be what's that optimal line between being tough, right, and being then too hard, right? And especially with my son, right, it's just like, am I pushing too hard, or is this the right amount?
Yeah,
you know, and realizing that it's a constant game of learning
balance.
Yeah, that it is a balance, and that I don't even think that it's fully a balance. And I think it's just solely that, you know, it's a game of trial and error, right? Like if it's okay to get it wrong, as long as you can own that you got it wrong.
Yeah.
You know, because they don't really have this expectation for you to be perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can own that you fucked it up and that you were too abrasive or too stern or too aggressive or too harsh, like, they're willing to forgive you.
Yeah.
I think that the trauma or the negative relationship really ensues when you can't own it. When you can't be like, you know what, I was a piece of shit there.
Yeah.
That wasn't the right way to respond to that. You know, and that's when you find yourself in those tougher relationships.
And it's nice that you notice that right away. Maybe not right away. It might take you a week. It might take you a day. But like in this situation for my dad, like he went from the military to the oil field, and not just like he offshore Africa oil field, all the oil fields possible. And you have to deal with you have to be abrasive. You have to be tough in order to work that kind of environment, especially with the people that, you know, will treat you and talk to you in a way that is not respectful.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a big correlation between that work environment and the military collectively. So I think that's why a lot of people segment themselves to that. Well, I mean, it pays way better than the military does too.
Oh yeah.
The culture is very similar.
Yeah. In terms of like just the environment is not like a soft, happy, hey, let's crack some jokes environment. No, it's pretty aggressive.
So you transitioned from a competitor to a coach, and how's your perspective on bodybuilding changed now that you're helping others succeed in the sport?
Well, I was a trainer coach before I became a competitor.
Okay.
And then I just decided to leave the competitor side aside, because I was gonna have a kid. And you know, when you have a kid, you got to be there for them. And bodybuilding is a selfish sport, especially it's competitive bodybuilding. Yeah. Extremely selfish. You're only worried about yourself, your progress, your meals, your schedule, because you're trying to make those goals happen. Yeah. And if you're a competitor, you're probably typically going to compete almost every year, and that involves consistency not only during the prep but during the off season, and that's pretty much all year. Yeah. So I stepped away from competitive bodybuilding to work on myself as a person, because when I found out my wife was going to be, she was pregnant, you know, at the time, I didn't have the mindset to be a dad. You know, I didn't think I was going to be a dad. I never really even wanted kids. You know what I mean? Yeah. I
remember when you told me that you were gonna, I think you even mentioned to me that like you didn't tell a lot of people. No, I was already dad, so I think maybe you felt kind of comfortable in telling me. But
and I always felt like a good vibe from you. Yeah, you know, I'm a people person, and I can typically feel good vibes. And if I can only talk to you if I talk to you for 30 seconds, and I have that feeling I'm not gonna like you. Yeah, you're just someone I know. I'm not gonna be mean to you or anything, but you're just someone I know. I'm not gonna tell you things. You don't need to know anything. You know what I mean? Yeah, I knew my mindset needed to shift, because if it didn't shift, I was going to have a hard time. And don't get me wrong, I had a hard time regardless.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's tough. Being a parent is not for the weak. It's not for the weak. And I feel like when you're a parent, you have to have a lot more awareness of yourself.
Oh yeah.
And things you say, the things you do.
Because it's impacting more than just you.
Exactly.
It's kind of like baked into it.
Exactly.
You know. But then on what you said there, on like I wasn't really ready at the transition. It's like think what I would tell like young fathers is that like, but how would you? Like, you've never been responsible for something.
Yeah, you're never really going to be ready for it until you're in it.
Yeah, and then even then, you definitely don't feel ready.
Yeah,
it feels overwhelming.
Oh yeah,
you just feel like it's a walking mistake every day. But again, it's like when you first went to the gym, like you didn't know what you were doing. You thought you were doing something, right? And then somebody was like, "Hey, that's the wrong form on that," and then you're like, "Oh shit."
That, or I look back at old videos, old photos of me when I was first starting, and I'm like,
"The fuck was I doing?"
Man.
So like that's what builds for learning.
Exactly. Going through time.
Yeah. Like we learn by doing as people. So like if you're intentional and you really want to be a good father, even if at the beginning you suck at it, like luckily for you, at the beginning they don't remember a whole lot.
Yeah.
So in a few years you can become a really great father, even if you're a piece of shit human being when you become a dad.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like the intentional effort, the consistency over time, the things we've already highlighted, like that's what's gonna make it. So if you could change one thing about how people approach fitness today, what would it be?
I feel like this is one everyone knows, but no one's really willing to give, and that's just time.
Mm-hmm.
Give it time.
What do you mean by that?
Meaning you're not going to get to where you want in a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. You got to be consistent long term to get to where you want, but stay where you want. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like if you want to be sub 15% body fat year round, maybe even single digit body fats year round if you're that crazy, that's going to take time.
Yeah.
It's 100% going to take a lot of your time to be there and to stay there.
Definitely. It takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Just that things take time.
Just things take time, and to give it time, actually realize and be aware of the time frame and always add on a few more months than what you originally said, because life happens. Mm-hmm. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, next month. You know what I mean? You could be in a different financial situation. You could be in a different type of schedule. Maybe you switched jobs. Maybe you moved. Maybe something happened to you and you can't commit to this goal anymore. Yeah. So just take those variables into account to extend that period of time so that you don't lose that drive. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because ahead of time, this is going to take time. And now that I know it's going to take time, I'm going to commit to knowing it's going to take this much time. Yeah. So
better to have your expectations too long than too short.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
Kind of referencing back to the father aspect. As a father, how's bodybuilding influenced your approach to parenting? Do you see any of the lessons or ideas carry over from the gym?
Maybe not too much in all reality, from bodybuilding to being a dad. Just two completely different things. Mm-hmm. Maybe from what I said earlier, the consistency bleeds into other things. So like that consistency with bodybuilding led with my consistency schedule with my son, doing things with him every day. Like those walks, taking him to the park literally every day. This is the same thing I did with gym. I went to the gym every day. So right now, I don't go to the gym nearly as much as I did.
You just swapped it.
3 years ago. I just swapped it because my life now is not bodybuilding Christian. Mm-hmm. My life now is father Christian. And in my opinion, this one weighs way heavier than this one. And it's more important. I don't want to be a shitty dad. I don't want to be a dad that wasn't there due to my selfish desire of wanting to be jacked. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's just not right. It's not right.
Maybe I'm weird. I think I can draw many correlations. Maybe it's because your son's younger.
Maybe
that I view especially the establishing the ability to be resilient and tough. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a big one now. He's almost 11, and so we're leaning into this more kind of pre-puberty mindset of like, well, I want these things in life. Like, well, you can have them if you're willing to work for them. Yeah. Right. So like, just as much as with the physique, you can have it if you're willing to work for it. Right. Realizing again that I talked about this in a previous episode, but the idea of understanding the end of what you want. And what I mean by that is, we said earlier, like a lot of people want to be jacked. A lot of people don't want to do the work to get jacked. Yeah. Right? A lot of people want to make a lot of money. A lot of people don't want to sacrifice the time and effort to get wealthy. Mm-hmm. Right. So it's like understanding that the traits of patience or toughness, like the route to acquire those aren't as appealing as most people would want to believe, right? Like to be patient, you're gonna have to work harder and longer than most people. That's the
Of
essential,
course.
like that's the
Yeah.
payout of patience, right? So, and again, like everybody wants patience, but no one wants to work harder and longer than someone
no
else
one wants to go to the stuff to
get
gain more patience.
exactly. And so I think for me that there's a lot of correlation there.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, well, I want to run this fast right now. It's like, well, you can in X time. Well, I want to be able to buy these V-Bucks or do this or do that. And it's like, okay, like, well, you have to earn that.
Yeah.
And because you can have the things you want in life, but you have to earn them. Nothing's going to be given to you. So I think I'm just in a different stage of the parenting aspect for sure.
Because now you say that, I'm like, that makes 100%.
Yeah.
It makes sense. 100%.
And so I'm trying to give him these values or these lessons of what I think it's like to be a good man. And I find a lot of that correlation in things with the gym for me. So in bodybuilding, if those who don't know, but progressive overloads, primary key to growth, constantly adding more weight to become stronger. How has this progressive responsibility of being a husband and a father shaped you as a man now? And do you think men avoid this load?
I think some men definitely avoid it. It's not easy. It's not easy being a parent. It's not easy being a husband. It's not easy being a father. Yeah, it's easy to an extent, but when the tough times come, they're tough. You know what I mean? And a lot of people don't like being in that uncomfortable situation.
Yeah.
I don't mind because, like I said, I feel like if you go through uncomfortable situations or, I guess, quote unquote, suffering, you learn. You learn things that you develop things that you need to. I've always been the type to really care for the women in my life just because I learned that from my dad. I see my dad taking care of my mom. So that was like instilled in me to treat my wife the way that I treat her. And we communicate with things, we do things properly, we don't fight about things, we talk about it. You know what I mean? So and being married is different than having a girlfriend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When
Way
you're
different.
Yeah, when you're married, two become one. And you guys need to do things together. You guys need to figure out problems together. The biggest thing is just communication. As for a father, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't ready to be a dad. So I had to get in the mindset of I'm going to be a father. And if I want to be, I see my dad and I see him as one of the best dads in the world, even though he feels like he's not. But because I know what he did to provide for us, that's why I think he's the best dad in the world. And for me, I have my pedestal up there because I want to be as good, if not better, than my father. My dad was amazing. He still is amazing. He still provides no matter what, and knowing stories, that he did, things he did for my mom when they lived in Puerto Rico. So like when my mom was pregnant, I think with my my middle brother, Brian, my mom craved, I believe, oysters, right? Or some type of like shellfish. Dude, my dad would wake up at like 3:30 in the morning, run all the way to the other side of the island just to get my mom what she wanted. So by the time she woke up, she had it there for her.
That's awesome.
Like that's the kind of man my dad is. Like he'll do anything for the people he loves. And that's what I strive to be. That's the pedestal I have. So that's just what I strive to be as a father, is the way my father was.
Yeah.
And now that he's at an age where he can reflect back on his life, and I'm at an age where I can be aware and understand where he's coming from. He tells me things that like maybe he regrets, and I take that into account because I'm like, I see the pain it gives my dad. I don't want to have the same regrets as my dad did, and I'm sure he doesn't want me to have those same regrets.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely lean into that with my son. I'm very vocal with him, despite him being younger, on like the things that I'm not proud of, the things that I feel I have fucked up, made mistakes on. And again, I think it just helps. I think it just helps create a better relationship.
100%.
Because then I'm not. It's like, when would it have been good for him to know that? It's like, well, maybe it's right now as he's pursuing, like in your situation where you're a father to a young child and you're about to have another one. Like, so maybe that's the best time for that advice. But I think it's like, if I can start doing that right now and build that over a continuous period of time,
that's fantastic.
the ability we'll have to have those even tougher deeper, more tough conversations in 10 years from now.
Or maybe they won't be as tough because you've had conversations with him throughout his life. You know what I mean? They'll be more easygoing. Your son will probably be extremely more open to you because you're more open to him. You know, so
maybe, man. I'm hoping so.
No, I'm sure, dude. I'm sure it'll happen.
So just like when we were in the gym, we have already said a lot today that consistency is important. In your marriage, consistency matters more than intensity. I think some could agree.
Oh,
what are
100%.
what are the daily reps that you have to do in your relationship to keep your marriage functioning well? And how do you make sure you're showing up even when you don't feel like it?
The daily things would just be just communication, you know, with how she, especially now since she's pregnant, you know, her emotions are all over the place. You know, her job is demanding too. So like communicating with her on how she is, whether she's overstimulated because she has like 1,000 phone calls and then my son's screaming in the house at the same time, screaming her name because he's super attached to his mom. Like, you know, I ask him like, hey babe, like, do you want me to leave with him? Like the other day, my wife had a bunch of work stuff to do and I could literally see that she was stressed. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to help her out. I stopped what I was going to stop my studying, stopped everything. And I was like, this can wait. Okay. What she's doing is more important and it needs her attention right now. What I'm doing doesn't need my attention right now. You know what I mean? So I took my son, we went to Target, we went to PetSmart. So he's like fascinated with fish. So like he was there just watching the fish, same fish for like the whole 20 minutes we were there. You know what I mean? And just being aware of her situation without having to ask her is one really, I think, important aspect of being in a marriage is not having to ask and just see and realize and have awareness of like where your spouse is mentally at that moment. You know what I mean? Like if they need space, they need time, sacrifice part of your time to help them out. It's all about sacrifices, you know, and she does the same thing for me. So reciprocating that understanding and awareness, I think, is super important and healthy for a relationship. And it just helps things go a lot smoother for the day, so that both parties aren't as stressed and as overstimulated. You know what I mean? Because they have a toddler screaming while they're trying to do their job at the same time. So.
No, definitely. I like what you said. There's just that ability to have the familiarity, to recognize the awareness, to be like, she looks like she's overwhelmed.
Like, let me help out.
Let me just step in there. And you know, again, if you both had been doing something that had been like need that time right now, you know, like then again, like you said, there's a sacrifice, like that compromise. Like who suffers to lose the least by giving up this thing right now, right? And again, just being willing to do that, like you said, that reciprocity is huge. I think a lot of people, you know, obviously want the person who's genuine and caring and aware and whatnot, but then they struggle to be reciprocal of it. And that's I think that's a big foundation for a relationship to actually work.
That and seeing each other as equals. No one's above anyone else. You know what I mean? If you guys see each other as equals, y'all can come to agreements a lot better. And a lot more efficient without all the fighting and all the other things that come. You know.
So I know you're like a really good coach, and a good coach wouldn't tell his clients to do something he wouldn't do. How do you take that principle of leadership with your marriage and as a father?
What do you mean?
Like, you know, what are the things that kind of like what we're talking on there is like things that, you know, I'm not gonna be like, hey, communicate with me, but then I don't communicate. Right. So like the things that you're trying to like go forward sometimes, maybe like again, like it's the best way to preface this. Like in different stages of relationship, like you both are in different places. Right? Especially right now, your wife's pregnant. So how do you kind of show up in that authentic, true way to say like, hey, I'm not going to be doing things that or asking the things of you that I also then can't reciprocate. And again, maybe not just with your marriage, but as a father. Like I think a lot of parents are do as I say, but really kids just do as you do. Right. So it's like when parents are like, oh, my kid's a shit. It's like, are you a shit then? Like, because they're just replicating the behavior they're watching. You know? And so it's like, don't be lazy. It's, well, your kids initially when they're really young, I'm like, okay, don't be lazy. But then they get older and they're like, but you're a lazy piece of shit. Right. So creating that alignment between your words and your behaviors, you know, hey, like, take this as a coach. Like, yeah, because you know, you have the experience and you've probably taken it yourself. So you can say, hey, like, yeah, we'll see what your reaction is, but like, I know that if that doesn't work, we have A, B, and C option.
Of course.
You know, So I guess in that manner, just not in the leading in the do as I do, not do as I say manner. What are some kind of behaviors that you illustrate that?
For my family, for my wife.
Yeah.
One example would be like right now, my son has big emotions.
Mm-hmm.
He's starting to realize, like, sadness, crying, angry when his toy isn't going the right way he wants it to, right? When his truck isn't doing what he wants it to do. He throws fits, like he gets angry. And it makes me reflect because I was an angry kid growing up, like to the point where my parents wanted to put me in like some anger management because they were concerned. Like I was an angry kid. So seeing my son do that, like it makes me think, okay, when I get angry, I need to be less expressive for him, like so he can see and realize how to express his anger in a different way, maybe in a significantly more healthier way. Other people, some people express their anger through like yelling and cussing. Other people express their anger through just going crazy at the gym and just killing themselves because they're upset. You know what I mean? Without reflecting that on their kid, their wife, their family, their clients, all that stuff. So just making sure that, if my son gets angry, if I get angry, we have ways to accept that emotion, but in a healthy way. You know what I mean? Like it's okay to be mad, it's okay to be sad, but it's how you express it that's really going to determine how long you're going to be mad or sad for. You know what I mean? Like you could be upset about something and then be upset about it all day because you're letting it fester, or you could be mad about something and think about it. Think about why you're mad. Is it really that important for you to be that mad about it all day? You know what I mean? And that's something that I'm definitely still working on. It's not that it's bad or anything, but dude, the other day, and this was a life, kind of like a little life, like eye-opening moment for me. Okay, like the other day, I woke up grumpy. I wasn't I was just, I would get annoyed by the smallest things. I was just grumpy. Okay, that happens to people. And that morning we were driving to my mom's, and I was taking 290. That day it was raining, and I'm just on 290. I'm like almost the farthest right lane. So I was just going like 70, chilling. I didn't want to go fast. We were just going to my mom's. We weren't stressing about getting there. I was just chilling. And this car behind me is just, dude, he's just on me, like right on me. And I'm like, man, what is up with this guy? Why can't he just go to the left? Like, there's 3 more lanes, bro.
Yeah.
Why are you all up on me? You know what I mean? So right when I was going to go into the leftmost lane so that he can just pass me up, he had turned into the left lane, accelerated. He was in an electric vehicle. So that electric Mustang, brand new, paper plates. When he had gone into that lane, he accelerated, but I don't think he ever experienced or ever owned an electric car. When you accelerate an electric car, it goes quick.
Yeah.
And so when he did that, his tire spun out, and I heard it through my car. I heard it because I didn't play music on.
Yeah.
Because I was grumpy. I was like, I don't want to listen to it. I want silence. You know what I mean? And so when I heard it, I looked in my rear view, my side mirror, and I was like, oh my God. And dude, this guy he had to have been maybe a couple inches from hitting us.
Yeah.
And it was raining. We have a big car. So like we could have spun out and rolled. And like he ended up hitting the barrier. And lucky there was a few cars behind me. They didn't hit him, but they went to the side. I wasn't about to pull over with my son in the car.
Yeah.
There's other people. Like you could deal with that. That's your fault at the end of the day because you decided to be on me and be upset. And crash your own vehicle, because you accelerated too fast. And it just made me think, like, I woke up grumpy pretty much almost for no reason, stayed grumpy for no reason, and everything I loved in my life would have been gone in an instant.
Yeah.
If that car would have tumbled, my son would have gotten hurt. Not only that, the seatbelt that was holding my wife together, where's that seatbelt lay? On her stomach.
Yeah.
So if we get in a wreck, that seatbelt's gonna go tight and it's gonna hurt the baby, possibly even kill it. And so I started to reflect. I'm like, I was mad for pretty much no reason, and it made me think like everything you love in life can be taken from you, like that.
Yeah, it's the paradox of leaning into whatever emotion's present.
Yeah.
And there's a time to do it, but there's a time to not, right? And most emotion, even positive ones, can generate regret.
Yeah.
Right. So, but mainly we correlate it to the negative ones, right? Like I was angry and I did this, and now I regret what I did.
And after all that, and we got home, I took my wife to the side, and I told her, I was like, I'm sorry, I was grumpy this morning.
Yeah.
I still cooked them breakfast and everything. I still did my fatherly duties. I just had a face while doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I told her, I was like, I'm sorry, and it really made me think, like, you shouldn't give these negative emotions so much energy.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't. In our reality.
Yeah.
Because it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
Because if you're angry all the time, you're not going to enjoy things.
Yeah.
And you can make mistakes because you're angry. So it definitely made me realize that I shouldn't have been angry that morning. That I should have just been normal, nothing crazy. And just to focus on being less angry.
Yeah.
Because everything I loved was in that car at the moment, and I could have lost it all.
That's kind of like what you referenced earlier, is that a lot of people focus on the lack, not what they have. All right.
That moment definitely made me realize what I have rather than what I did not have.
There's a good quote I want to share with you, and it's, if you can be in a bad mood for no reason, you can be in a good mood for no reason. Right. And it's tough. It takes continuous active effort to achieve that, but it's something that I think about a lot when I'm in a bad mood. It's like you can be you can be in a bad mood for no reason, you can be in a good mood for no reason. And inversely, the concept there is like, well, if I can be in a bad mood, I can still get things done and no one can know, just as much as I can be in a good mood and still get things done.
Yeah.
Like the correlation I'm making there is that the mood doesn't drive action. So even if you're in a bad mood, you don't have to be a dick.
Yeah.
But if you can be in a bad mood for no reason, then you could inversely just be in a good mood for no reason too.
Yeah.
All right, man. Last two. Kind of what we've alluded on already here, but I wanted to kind of dig a little bit more on it. As many men struggle with the shift, being singularly focusing solely on themselves, on personal goals, whatever that case may be, to embracing the selflessness of marriage and fatherhood, especially. How have you navigated that transition, and how do you think men can best prepare for that shift in their own life?
I think it's definitely going to take a big mindset shift. I mean, it did for me. I was doing things for me and pretty much only for me. My goals, whether they were selfish or not, they were just doing it for me. When you become a dad and you're going to become a husband, you have to let go of some of those selfish goals, because if you want to have that healthy relationship, not only with your wife, but your child, you have to let go of your selfish desires.
Yeah.
And that was like not working out as much. That weighed on me. I mean, I went from working out almost every day to working out maybe 2-3 times a week, down to like maybe once a week, just so that I could help my wife out at home. You know what I mean? Like, her job right now is pretty demanding. And, at the end of the day, I can either go to the gym after the kid naps, or after the kid goes to bed, right? I go to the gym, or I could stay home and comfort my wife and provide her on an emotional level.
Yeah.
She just went through a whole day of stress and work. I'm sure she's gonna want some love and affection towards the end of the day. Yeah, that's just how my wife is, and I know that. So I sacrifice my own selfish desires of wanting to go to the gym, to comfort my wife and be there for her. And at the end of the day, it still feels good. It still feels the same. It still feels, you still have that feel good feeling.
Yeah, the fulfillment.
I have no regret not going to the gym. I don't mind, because my wife's happy. Happy wife, happy life, bro. You know what I mean? So it was an adjustment at first, though. I'm not gonna say it was easy. Mentally, I was in a dark spot for probably like 3.5 months, because internally, I was not ready to let go of my own goals and desires. I'd say when my son was probably about 3 months old, 3, maybe 4, that's when things really started to settle, in terms of like, I'm going to do everything for my son and my wife now. I'm not doing things for me.
Yeah.
For right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's just like similar to, I mean, we've hammered on bodybuilding, but it's like it's for a season.
Exactly.
You don't bulk all year. You don't cut all year. Like, and not every year of your marriage is this like endless sacrifice, right? There'll be times when the kids get a little bit older where you can go to the gym at night.
Exactly.
And you can have those things back. And so it's like,
and I want to enjoy my son being his age. I want to enjoy my son being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until he goes to school and all these things. Because all I hear from dads that have older kids are like, they grow up so fast. I wish I would have spent more time with him whenever he was younger, and his young, not double digit, years. I'm talking like single digit years. I hear that all the time, dude. Yeah. All the time. So like, I feel like no matter how much time you spend with your kids, you're always going to say that, right? But like, at least knowing that I gave the time and effort and sacrifice to spend more time with my son, that's going to be enough for me.
Yeah. I like that, man. And then last one for you is, if you could, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Man, best piece of advice I've ever received. The first time I heard this, it hit hard because my goals at the time were to like make as much money as possible, right? And you can't take your money to the grave. And that was the first time I heard that. And when I heard that, I reflected on it and I was like, all this time and effort I am putting towards making all this money and not spending time with like the people I care about and actually truly enjoying things. All this money that trying to make or I did make, I can't take it with me.
Yeah.
I can't take any materialistic things with me to the grave.
Yeah.
And so that put in perspective to me that like money is
just like anything, man, it's a tool.
Exactly. Just a tool to get things that you either want or need. But like, you could, right, if you have the things all together, you could live life without money.
Yeah.
You could live a pretty happy life without money. So
yeah, it objectively doesn't take the problems away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the misconception. When of course, if you don't have a lot of money, you're like, oh, just money would solve all my problems. It's like, yeah, but money doesn't mean that people you love aren't going to die.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean that bad things will happen to you. If that was the outcome of success, it would make it more worth pursuing.
Yeah.
But that's actually not guaranteed by more wealth, more status, more accomplishments. It's a bit paradoxical, but that's the reality is, maybe you're, I'm struggling to get groceries, or, we're worried about rent. Like, yeah, that would go away, but the inability to communicate in your marriage would still be present.
Yeah.
Like, if that is a problem you have, like, it would just, like you said earlier when you said, I used to go to the gym this time, now take my son for a walk. It's like, well, now you would take the money problem out and just insert a different problem. Yeah. The problems don't go away. And a good quote I heard in correlation to that is, no amount of money ever bought a second of time. Yeah. Which is a pretty mind-fucking thing to sit with.
Because society nowadays is just like, make money.
Yeah.
You gotta make money to survive. You gotta make money to get the things you want. It's all about money in all reality.
Yeah.
And so growing up in that kind of society and then being told you can't take any of that with you kind of puts in perspective that like you need to be grateful for all the things, like you said, like I said earlier, you got to be grateful for the things you have versus the things you don't have. Because if you're just focused on the money you don't have, you could be upset, you could be grumpy, you could affect your mood, and that could affect your whole day, your relationships. It could affect a bunch of things because you're so focused on something you don't have or something you've been trying to get for so long. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Heck yeah, man. Well, mine is that it's from me, ironically, but it's something I just find myself saying more and more recently. So I'll end with it, is that just the ability to know yourself.
Yeah.
Really take the time to understand, if you could have the life you want, what would that life look like? If you could make the amount of money you want, if that's what's most important to you, fine. Then like, what would that look like?
Yeah.
What does the ideal family look like?
Yeah.
What does the ideal partner? Like, what do those things actually look like for you?
Yeah.
Rather than just complaining about the lack of the things you don't have in your life or about the current situations. Because most people who complain about something, the moment you ask them, well, like, what would you do?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Like, they don't have anything. Because it's easier to bitch than it is to actually sit with yourself, navigate the uncomfort, sift through all the shit that is you as a human being. What are the real versions of you? What's the trauma? What's the life experience?
Mm-hmm.
What's society? Like, who really is Christian?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what's going to require a lot of uncomfortable self-navigating,
Mm-hmm.
right? And most people are unwilling to do that. So, but the payoff is immensely worth it, because then you're able to align yourself with the things that actually do mean the most.
Exactly.
You're not chasing things and then still feeling insufficient or feeling empty with it, because you really don't actually want those things.
Yeah.
But you haven't looked at yourself enough to know if you actually want it. You just think that's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So I lectured at my university this week, and it was a big thing I kept coming back to. It was just the ability to know yourself. And with that, everything else kind of falls into place.
Yeah.
So,
because you align yourself with the things that you agree with.
Yeah, that you actually want.
Yeah.
So, well, man, I appreciate you and your time today.
Yes, dude. I appreciate you bringing me on, dude.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Thank you, man. And everyone who's listening, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy it.